The Jiu Feng Smuggler Pack. This is a weapon DLC for the City of Gold series of updates that adds 3 new weapons, some weapon skins, and also some added cosmetics for Infamy. Let's take a look at what's new. So let's take a look at each of the weapons first. To start off, we have the AK Generation 21 Tactical SMG, which comes in an Akimbo primary as well as a single secondary. It's a good well-rounded SMG that gives you a surprising amount of ammo for the damage that it deals. Next, we have the Moscone 12-gauge Tactical Shotgun. This only comes as a primary weapon, but it sports good damage with a really decent rate of fire and reload speed for this type of weapon. Finally, we have the Crosskill Chunky Compact Pistol. Who the fuck comes up with the names at Overkill? It comes in Akimbo primary and single secondary. So for the AK, there's definitely one thing that stands out about this SMG compared to the others. I noticed it while buying the gun in my inventory, but for whatever reason, this gun has more damage than the rest of the SMGs of its type. So for secondary SMGs that share the trait of having 150 total ammo, they tend to have 60 damage, give or take. Overkill, being a bunch of boring devs, they make most of the guns of a similar archetype basically the same, statistically. However, this AK SMG has 15 more damage than the rest of them, starting at 75. Why? I sure as hell couldn't tell you. Big question though is, does it actually make a difference? Now, I'm not a math guy, so I'm not going to calculate it, but with the way this game works, it probably doesn't make a lick of difference. When I run crits, my performance is already based on chance. If a gun kills a guy on one less bullet, I wouldn't even ever notice. Not to mention aim, fire rate, enemies grouping up. All of these are variables that mix in, and all of a sudden, I really don't care anymore. Well, in any case, it does more damage, but it also doesn't seem to have any discernible downsides for doing so. So it still has the same pickup as the other guys, has an average rate of fire, has okay stability and accuracy. If anything, other than the standout damage, there isn't actually anything remarkable about the gun. But it does feel damn good to use. So this archetype of SMG has a decent balance between damage and ammo, so you can be fairly self-sufficient with them as long as you don't miss. Unfortunately, if you're using the Akimbos and you hold down the trigger, you're going to be looking up at the sky a lot, really fast, and you're going to be missing all of your shots. So there's still a fair amount of kick that I've noticed. As with my other Akimbo videos, I do recommend trying to mix in single fire with the Akimbo SMGs. It makes them really ammo efficient and a lot easier to handle too. I didn't really feel like it was such an issue when I used the single secondary version. Like I mentioned, the gun has fairly manageable recoil and accuracy, so it never really felt too bad. In fact, I think I actually really quite like the secondary version. It's a pretty decent jack of all trades for builds that don't really focus on a particular setup, very much unlike snipers or shotguns or something where you have to really invest in them. However, I do still think that it needs some crits to do decently. Otherwise, you're just going to be struggling quite a bit on Death Wish, and especially Death Sentence. It's got good concealment, as do all SMGs. I got mine up to 28 without any real difficulty, so it's got that going for it. If you don't run crits, you probably need Berserker, or at least something else to make up for it, because unfortunately, SMGs and assault rifles, they're just really mediocre without a damage boosting skill. At first, I also thought that this gun had a slow reload speed, but it actually doesn't. Not compared to other guns anyway. I guess it's just been so long since I've used SMGs, I forgot how they feel without reload skills. Or that really OP fast mag mod. Speaking of OP, this gun, it might fit under that definition of OP or power creep. Because for all intents and purposes, it seems like it's better than any of the other SMGs of its type. But people also don't like me calling stuff overpowered or power creep, so you know what? You didn't hear it from me. The Moscone 12-gauge. This one, a little bit of an odd one, stat-wise. Kinda seems to be part of that new archetype that Overkill is trying to make. Pump shotguns that are higher damage than the early game pump shotguns, but also lower than the double barrels. The newer Reinfeld 88 shotgun is also part of that same category, and they both feel very similar. The Moscone only has 12 less points of damage than the Reinfeld 88, but on a shotgun, the damage numbers are so high, I don't even know if such a small number can make a discernible difference. When using it on Death Sentence with the right build, everything dies in one shot anyway, so again, I don't feel like it makes a difference. The thing with this shoddy though is that it's way more customizable. You have tons more modding options in the Rheinfeld, with sights, rails, mags, grips, the whole shebang. So if you're the type of guy that likes ACOGs on a video game shotgun that only has a range of 15 watermelons, you're gonna have fun. I'll never say no to more customization. Unfortunately, it seems to be a fairly big weapon, so you can't really get concealment down that much for crit users. The best I got on mine was 22 concealment, which, admittedly is enough if you run the 33 concealment Bronco, but any other 30 concealment secondary will still put you above 5 detection. For me, when I put the Mosconi on with a 30 concealment gun, I went up to 9 detection, which isn't terrible, honestly, but if you're looking to maximize the dodge and crits that you're getting from basic skills, you're gonna be a wee bit short. But if you do run a crit setup, this gun is a goddamn dream. In the gameplay, I've got crit skills as well as shotgun skills, and it does work. Shotguns, always great for crowd control, but once you start building up that damage with the skill Overkill, you're clearing whole rooms with ease. If you manage to score some crits while you have Overkill procced as well, then you can even take down bulldozers pretty fast. It still isn't the best type of weapon if you want to kill a bulldozer really fast, but it can do a decent job if you're lucky with your crits. As mentioned earlier, one of the most standout features of this gun is just how fast it is. The speed of the reload and the speed of the rate of fire, they're both higher than most of the shotguns, meaning you can absolutely go to town and get all your ammo back pretty fast too. It's a pretty monstrous shotgun, but then again in this game, nearly all the shotguns are. The Crosskill, chunky, compact. Again, what the fuck is this name? It doesn't even make any sense. What is it, a chode? Well, putting that aside, it's what, the third Crosskill we've gotten in this game? Like, okay, I like 1911s, I really do. They hold a special place in my heart, especially after that one cutscene from Metal Gear Solid 3. But we don't need that many Overkill. They're seriously running out of gun ideas. They said, you know what? Here's a normal 1911. Now let's make a short one. And why not a chunky one? I mean, come on. Well, the gun itself is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It hits way harder than the other Crosskills, but it also kind of sits in a weird spot. It's got a similar ammo pool and similar stats to that of the Deagle and other pistols like it, but it also has less damage than them, roughly 10 less damage than all of the other pistols of that archetype, which is kind of like the opposite of the AK. Again, after actually using the gun and testing it in gameplay, I don't know if it actually made much of a difference, but I guess it's something that you want to consider when using it. Feel free to let me know if you've actually tested it and you've done math or something and it actually does need like one more shot to kill or something, because on a pistol that actually can make a difference. Otherwise, like the AK, it felt pretty average, Just like the Deagle and the other pistols, it won't hit as hard as revolvers do, but at the same time, they're the second highest damaging type of pistol, so they shred either way. This gun does have a standout stat, which is its rate of fire. It's kind of, well, it's actually absurdly high for its archetype, which means you can shoot as fast as you click, basically. If you do though, just know, it's gonna kick like a mule. When modded for concealment, it sports some really damn low stability, and paired with the high rate of fire, you're gonna be spending most of the game looking at the ceiling. So, it feels like it kicks a lot more than revolvers, but it's also been a little while since I've used them, so I might be misremembering. In any case, that means that you can put out some really mean damage really fast, as long as you hit your shots. It's got some high accuracy, and there's also some mods that increase it even more. You can really snipe with it if you wanted to. As with all pistols, it gets some high concealment with relative ease, so no worries there from the crits and dodge users. A decent weapon for the higher difficulties, but it's definitely harder to use than most of the brain-dead weapons, like shotguns or LMGs. And finally, the last thing to mention is the cosmetics. This DLC pack includes some weapon skins, and I'll just preview them here so you can check them out. So I mentioned this earlier, but this DLC also comes out at the same time as an update for more cosmetic rewards for Infamy. I actually think that these are way better than the ones they initially added, from the suit to the weapon skins. It still won't make me put in a couple hundred hours in an old game just to get them, but you know what, I appreciate that nonetheless. In any case, I'm just going to do a quick preview so that you can check them out here. Overall, I feel pretty disappointed with this DLC. Not to say that the guns are bad or anything. In fact, as we've seen from the gameplay and the stats, they're probably good. Or a little too good. You know, maybe power creep good. But then again, I can't say that word, so just ignore that I said anything. What I'm disappointed in is the fact that this is probably one of the laziest DLC weapon packs that we've seen to date. The guns, they're not really new in any way, shape, or form. There were no new animations, no new sounds from what I heard. And while there are new gun models, they look very much like the souped-up versions of an AK in a 1911. Now, I know, I'm not a huge gun enthusiast, so someone out there will probably tell me, Jen, these are actually new gun models, and whatever, but my point still stands. This feels like one of the most uninspired weapon DLCs that we've had in a long while. I mean, they didn't even bother to come up with new names. They just said, okay guys, here's Crosskill number 3 and Moscone number 2. Paired with the fact that this DLC didn't release at the same time as a new map, or possibly a new character, which has been hinted at, it feels really dull and a little bit cash grabby. Oh, but Jen, Overkill is poor and they need your help, so we gotta help fund them and get Payday 3. Spare me the theatrics. I've spent way more in this game than most people ever will, and I still buy every DLC, even when I was supported by Overkill, even when I'm not. My personal opinion of the DLC aside, like I said, none of the guns are bad. In fact, they all feel really good to play with. It's just that I kind of wish that for the last bits of Payday 2's lifespan, maybe Overkill would shift to a cosmetic-focused route for DLC instead, you know? I like to rag on weapon skins and shit all the time, but, you know, realistically, if people like the way something looks, who am I to judge? And as long as they aren't handled poorly, like the original skins were with the stat boosts, it harms no one. And you know what? Everybody gets more cool-looking skins. I'd rather they do that than try to sell SMG number 24, pistol number 32, or shotgun number 8, you know what? And the only difference being is that they're just better than the weapons that you already bought, but a year ago, from a different DLC. So, this DLC, and weapon DLC in general, they just don't excite me anymore. At least with maps, they're fun and new for a little bit, as long as, you know, there's some effort put into designing it, like that god-awful border crossing or whatever. I know, hoping for something new and exciting is not something one does for this game. I mean, it's barely being kept alive by Twitter memes and basically a cult following, but hey, you know what? They teased in the update page that we're getting some new gameplay changes soon. So maybe, just maybe, I hope that it's interesting enough and it keeps the game somewhat fresh, at least until Payday 3 arrives. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have my cabaret club to take care of. Later.